Are you a man looking for an intensive program to help you overcome sexually addictive behaviors? Gateway to Freedom is your answer. Gateway to Freedom is a 3-day workshop for men seeking to overcome any destructive sexual habits. Whether married, single, or divorced, Gateway to Freedom will help men regain hope for a new life of purity and real contentment. The workshop is conducted by experts in the field of sexual addiction recovery with decades of combined experience. Read testimonials of workshop alumni at gatewaymen.com. Get all the info and register online at gatewaymen.com or call 1-800-49-PURITY.
Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I'm the founder of the Gateway to Freedom Workshop. I want to personally invite you to be part of our next workshop coming up January 8th through the 10th in Pennsylvania. So call us today at 1-800-49-PURITY or visit gatewaymen.com.
Welcome to Pure Sex Radio, training men, educating women. Are you ready to get real and start living each day in purity? This dynamic program is designed to educate, encourage, and equip listeners with the tools necessary for living a life of sexual purity. Pure Sex Radio brings you the best in mobile talk radio. Listen to real-life struggles, learn how to overcome lust, pornography, and sex addiction, and get serious about purity. Your hosts for Pure Sex Radio are Jonathan Doherty and Stephen Cervantes. Jonathan is the director of Be Broken Ministries and founder of the Gateway to Freedom Workshop for Men. Stephen is the founder of the Hope Counseling Center. Visit us online at puresexradio.com. And now, please welcome Jonathan and Stephen on Pure Sex Radio.
Good day, radio listeners. Welcome to this week's edition of the Pure Sex Radio broadcast. We're so glad to have you with us. My name is Jonathan. I'm here with Stephen. Stephen, how are you today?
I am blessed. Thank you for asking.
Well, folks, as we are closing out 2015, which is really hard for me to believe, and believe it or not, we've been on the airwaves for over 10 years. Can you believe that, Stephen?
Wow. That blows me away.
We would like to remind you, as we do periodically, that we're a listener-supported broadcast. So the only way that we're able to produce these programs and distribute them to you is because of folks just like you who've come alongside of us and decided to partner with us in this, in our mission of healing sexual brokenness by God's grace, one story at a time. If you would like to give a year-end gift, or if you'd like to come alongside of us as a monthly partner, simply go to puresexradio.com and click on the donate button, and you can learn about the ways that you can support this outreach.
And hey, I think it's a way for us to do something about the ever-sickening culture that we live in. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're a voice, and we can't change the world, but we can share our hearts and thoughts and lessons, and we can challenge others. Our focus is on men, but we educate women also to step it up and don't drown in this ever-sickening culture.
And I will say this, and I don't mean this to sound like we're tooting our own horn or anything, but I've had so many people come up to me either at the workshop or just when I'm out doing speaking engagements, and they really are grateful that there's kind of this, that we provide somewhat of an anchor for people who are in the midst of a storm and they feel like, oh, I can tap into some guys that get it, that understand me, that can be some guides. I've had so many people, Stephen, tell me that they feel like you're their counselor, even though they've never been in a counseling session with you.
Wow, so, that blesses me. Thank you for saying that. So we hope we can extend ourselves beyond this little box you and I live in with a couple of microphones and tell people our thoughts about the world.
Yeah.
In hopes of challenging them and calling them to a higher place.
Well, on that note, I'm going to pass it off to you, Stephen, because you've struggled with me for years with this ministry.
The
and
truth
the
comes
name,
out.
The
Where
name
did you
of this
come up
ministry.
with this name?
And I'm not talking about the radio program. I'm talking about the main umbrella ministry of Be Broken Ministries.
I have said, can we call it something else besides Pure Sex Radio
Yeah.
too? People say, I can't listen at work, because of the name. So that's kind of funny. You come up with great names, Jonathan. They're just non-traditional names. So Be Broken. In my mind, I say, why didn't you say be better, be good, be right, be more? Why didn't you add something like be rich or be holy or, something with a good positive, be something positive? No, you say be broken.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I wish I could tell you that, there was a whole lot of, that it was just this great idea. What it was, as God was calling me into ministry, he said, tell your story. And as I thought about my story and I thought about what was the most significant aspect to really the process of transformation and change and recovery, this idea of brokenness kept coming up, and it kept coming up in two frameworks, so to speak. We're going to talk about one here, and I will probably talk about both of them. But the one framework was, I am broken, meaning I could look at all of my history and go, man, there's a lot of brokenness in the sense of there was brokenness in relationships. There was brokenness in thought. There was brokenness in trauma and history and all of that. But then I also realized as I began to recovery, there's a positive side of brokenness. And I don't want to get too far ahead of that. I'm just letting you know how I kind of came up with the name was, man, this theme of brokenness kept coming up on both sides.
Now you're intriguing me here because one, you're saying, I'm a broken man. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really the starting point. I'm a broken man. Because if you say the truth, you can fix it. Mm-hmm. Have you ever noticed if you misunderstand the problem, you fix the wrong problem?
Right, exactly.
But if you say, I'm a broken man at this point in my life, so I should just be broken today.
And yes, and I think, too, to drill down even a little further, I think you have to then understand what actually is broken, because we get a lot of guys, and we're going to talk a little bit later in this program kind of about our Gateway to Freedom workshop and some of the guys that have come there and comments they've made. And wouldn't you say that there's a pretty good number of those guys, probably even the majority of them, that when they are stepping into this process of recovery don't accurately recognize what is broken? Meaning,
that's true. But there's two parts. Something is broken, but the starting point is I am broken.
Yeah.
Right? And
so even if I don't
separated.
understand what the details are, to come to that place, because there is a humility in that, saying, man, I don't have it all together. I'm broke. I'm a mess.
It's it.
Yeah.
I'm a mess. I'm broken, and I've broken the things around me, my marriage, trust. Mm-hmm. I've broken a lot of things. So it's so humbling to just say, I'm broken.
And I appreciate you saying that, because I don't want the listeners to assume that they should or could even be able to accurately diagnose what is broken when that's what they've been living in. I mean, I have to remember that by the time, in order for me to come to a place of, like, as we like to say in the addiction community a lot of times, hitting rock bottom, mm-hmm. I certainly wasn't at a state where I would be able to say, oh, I can accurately self-diagnose what my broken... No, I was completely confused, totally in a cloud of my own darkness and addiction and all of that. So just coming to a place of saying, I am broken, and the key there then is saying, and I need help. That's a huge key, because a lot of times guys will get to a point where they go, okay, I'm willing to admit to myself that I'm broken, but I'm not ready to admit to anybody else that I'm broken.
That's true, yeah. And you can't just keep this alone, some little secret, and think you can fix it quietly. 'Cause
Right.
you got broken alone. You need help. But a minute ago you said there's a positive side. What were you thinking about when you said, okay, there is the moment and the ownership of the identity, I am a broken man, but there's a positive side?
Well, and that's something that I didn't discover until kind of later in the process of recovery. Later meaning it had been months, because I think originally I thought, okay, this is all about, fixing me, getting me strong, and then I'll be all patched up, and then I'll be brand new, I'll be just like brand new again. And the discovery I made along the way was, you know what? Actually, the way that I've found to grow the best, to grow the deepest, to grow the fastest, is staying in a voluntary state of brokenness, not going towards sin and toward the dark and toward addiction, but a voluntary brokenness that kind of keeps my hands open and saying, I need to receive. I don't know what I don't know. And there's a humility there. That's the kind of brokenness that's saying, I'm a fragile being.
But that also means go slow and be careful and really use the identity of brokenness in a positive way.
Yes, not seeing. See, there's a type of brokenness that we're talking about here originally that you're drowning in, that is, you're consumed by shame because of all of the things that are part of that addictive cycle, and it just always leads to bad, to negative. There's this other type of brokenness that is saying it is not shameful to be weak. It is not shameful to have frailties and be fragile in your spirit and in your emotions.
But it almost sounds human.
Bingo.
It sounds frail. It sounds like man. When you think of the Bible, all the messes up where they broke things and were broken and broke down.
And I'm glad, and you're exactly right. And isn't that the thing that so many men are unwilling to embrace? Just being a frail human being. I'm sure that even as I'm saying that word frail, there are men on the other end of this audio that are cringing because they do not want to associate that word with themselves. Frail? What are you talking about? I'm a man, and they've been falsely taught that men are only crusty and strong and powerful. And it's like, okay, we are called to share our strength and those kind of things, but how do you do that? How do you do that in a
aren't
relationship?
you saying that men are really just confused boys running around with more power and authority? Mm-hmm. So that we're human beings, right? We're imperfection. We're not perfection. We're imperfection. We're humans. We're broken. And so I would hear this statement at these training seminars. Really, at the last seminar, God gave me great clarity about this whole thing. And this is some of the weekend intensives we do. But you would say stuff, it's like your brokenness, or Lee would say, just be in your brokenness, or it's your brokenness showing, it's from your brokenness. You hear all this kind of stuff, and I thought, what are they talking about? How can you be in your brokenness, and how somehow is there helpful insight about being in your brokenness? Because I think it's what you said. The tendency is to run away and hide, because what you're saying is it's your defects, it's your flaws, it's your bad thinking. So brokenness is just a way to capture all of those. Some of your bad thinking is hanging out, or your brokenness, or your bad behaviors. I think those sort of mean the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. So where we're going is from don't run and hide and avoid and bury them and deny your weaknesses, right? Because it just makes things worse.
Yes, and I want to clarify a point here, because what you're saying is exactly right. It's about the idea of not hiding and not covering up and not pretending like you are something else. But I want to make it very, very clear that this idea of brokenness, this is not a glorification of weakness in the sense that I now bear no responsibility for my actions. There's nothing that I can do. I'm just this frail human being. No.
And Jonathan said, I'm broken, so there.
Yeah, so let me go tell my wife that's why I look at porn. Big deal. No. You're not getting it if that's what you're thinking. The idea of being in your brokenness, so to speak, is what you're talking about, Stephen. It's you're not hiding. You're not running away. You're actually looking at it, and you're inviting other safe people in to look at it with you and to help you along the way. So it is about a journey of maturity and improvement, and but with that in mind, you're never going to get to a place where you're not a human being, where there's not this frailty. I mean, it doesn't happen this side of heaven. There's always going to be a weakness in our being, and that's what we're saying. It's okay to live with that, not in the sense that we allow it to push us towards sin, but in the sense that we actually allow it to open us up to the light and the good and the power of God through the gospel.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So I want to make sure that we're clear of the wrong behaviors when you're in your brokenness. If you're angry, if you're avoiding, if you're denying, if you're arguing back, if you're justifying, then you're not walking in humility and owning your brokenness. You're just defending it and trying to justify yourself. So some of those are bad old behaviors that come out fast and quick, and they give us cover, but they're not helpful. So,
and I think where I'd like to go is something that you've got on here, because also when you're talking about brokenness, people are still wondering what is broken. And I would like to say that we are beings that are made up we're triune beings in the similar way that God is a triune God. We are body, soul, and spirit, meaning we are physical, emotional, and spiritual beings. And so one of the things you like to highlight a lot of times, Stephen, especially when we're doing our workshops, is saying, let's look at your broken emotional system, because really, if guys want to start kind of drilling down to the nuts and bolts of what is broken, what needs to be fixed, you like to really highlight on that part, that idea that, hey, one of the reasons that you're stuck in kind of this cycle of really disconnected relationships and broken fellowship with others and abusive kind of interactions is because you got stunted as kind of a little boy emotional system, and we need to grow it up into a fully grown man emotional system.
That's good. You're good. You've been paying attention. So are you a broken man, or do you run a broken emotional system? So we're having two conversations. One is in the moment, own your brokenness, right? Mm-hmm. Just walk in humility. But as you go on this journey, you have to realize that you're running a broken emotional system, that you cannot find freedom or rest or peace or transformation, as we're told, that can happen because the emotional system underlying, driving everything is broken. And you didn't, part of where you came from caused you to not talk, to hide, to deny, to not mature, to shame yourself. And those are all pieces of this broken system. It was just interesting how I was reading this book by Gary Smalley, and he says, I do not judge others, and I don't complain anymore. My mission is to be 100% at rest with my God. And it's like, wow, that's pretty incredible to not complain about others, ever. Just not need to complain. Because we feel so justified in trashing our wives and saying, well, if you didn't do that, then that's why I had to do this. I have to act this way because you act that way. Mm-hmm. And he goes, oh, no, you act that way because you want to act that way, because your system's messed up, because that's what you've always done. But the mission is growth and trying to mature our emotional systems so they respond well in a God-honoring way.
And if you think about that, Stephen, if you think through even just that example, to be able to release that right, so to speak, to think that I can complain and criticize against someone else, isn't that actually recognizing your weakness?
Well, let me think about this a minute. But if you offend me
Because don't you
and
feel
I take
something?
offense. How am I recognizing my weakness? Keep going.
You're recognizing your weakness because you're saying, you know what? I really want to trash this person. And that's a weakness, right?
Well, wait, but this is the second part. First, I took offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
and so now,
I want to slam back.
Now in my pain and the real frailty of who I am as a human being, my initial response is to want to, defend or fight back or kick him in the teeth or whatever.
Yeah.
And to be able to then say, okay, I'm owning my weakness. I'm not saying I'm not weak. I'm saying I recognize fully that that's what I want to do in response, but I'm owning it. And now I've got a different response because my emotional system is maturing. It's not saying I'm not weak anymore. It's saying my responses are maturing because I'm running a different system now.
That's what I love about this radio show. We can change topics right in the middle and deep in this whole thing. Because this is really an interesting thought, and that is, what if I don't get what I want from you? What if you disappoint me? If I thought something was going to happen, you said it was going to happen, I'm so ready for it to happen, or I wasn't finished talking and you interrupted me, or you said you were going to do something, then you didn't do it. That's that me getting all moody, sulky, and then I want to throw a little fit. And I mean, we're now talking about the emotional, unhealthy part of our system, right?
Yeah, and I don't think that that's something that...
You mean we still got messed up systems, Jonathan?
Yeah.
We're not done. We're supposed to be the experts here.
Yeah, but, let me ask you a question, and maybe you don't want to get this personal.
Hey.
Maybe you don't want to get this personal.
There it is, folks. He's parading me around now. Here goes. Let's hear it.
Because I think this example will clarify what I'm trying to say.
So if you hear a grown man cry, he brought me to my knees.
Would you say that you never get offended?
No, I always get offended. I mean, lots of times get offended.
So
I'm really mellow and I stay restful and I play a lot, but people, jerk you around in life.
So what I'm saying is that your humanity doesn't change, right?
What does that mean?
Your humanity. We've kind of equated your humanity with your weakness, your brokenness, the fact that you're not.
But would you
perfect.
say my style, or what? Clarify, my humanity
what I'm
is
saying
like
is,
my bones and my hair and teeth and personality and spirit. I mean,
we're talking about your emotional system right now.
Okay,
and that's part of your humanity, right?
Okay.
So if you still get offended as a grown man, and you may not respond in the same way you did when you were 20. Does that mean, though, that you are free from your brokenness? You're still a guy who gets offended. There's still that part of your being that's weak, and it feels frail, it feels fragile.
And I want to be respected, or I want to be justified in what I said and did.
But what I'm trying to point out is this is the positive side of brokenness, that we don't have to be afraid of the fact that, you know what, I still get hurt, I get offended. There are things that do bother me.
But would you go so far as to say to yourself, well, your brokenness is showing? Because when I want to have an attitude and be moody, is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Repeat to yourself, hey, your brokenness is hanging out. You're not getting what you want. You're going to throw a pouty little fit or get angry or do whatever you do.
But I'm also trying to highlight it in the positive way.
No, I'm saying that in a very positive way. Remind your head that your brokenness is hanging out, and don't be stupid based on your brokenness. Be smart and recognize you didn't get what you want. Why throw a fit?
And that's just it. I think a lot of times what ends up happening is your brokenness manifests, and we've only had one outlet that we've known how to handle that, which is some kind of negative sexual addictive behavior, some kind of dark, lonely, disconnected behavior. And what we're saying here now is when that rises up, it's like, okay, your frailty, your humanity, your brokenness is not going to go away, but how you respond to it can absolutely mature and change. You can start to see.
But I hear you now defining brokenness as when you don't get what you want.
No, I mean,
you're disappointed and you're frustrated.
It includes all of that, because think about it. Your brokenness is your frailty. It's your weakness. It is. We talked about it. It's your humanity.
Well, okay, but you have to be more specific. When you go humanity, that's everything, right? That's from beginning to end, top to bottom. That's everything. We're a human being. But you're saying when my weakness is exposed, a weakness of my humanity is exposed, and I don't get what I want, Because that's what I think it comes back to, right? Mm-hmm. Why do guys use porn? To make themselves feel better. Why do they feel bad? They didn't get what they wanted. Life's not going right. Life's hard.
And that's why I'm saying we don't have to be afraid of this. See, I think previously we are so afraid of anybody knowing that we don't have it all together, that we are weak, that we are scared little boys on the inside sometimes, that we do get offended, we do get hurt, we don't know how to respond, we're confused, we don't have the answer. And all of that is what we hide, but that's all part of our brokenness. And what I'm saying is that when you can recognize that you do not have to run screaming from the room when that pops up, when the reality of your frailties come to light, you can have a different response. You don't have to go run in the corner and self-medicate. You can say, you know what, I may be able to connect with my wife. I may be able to have a conversation.
I don't like what's happening right now, but I don't have to be stupid and crazy.
But I don't have to go, I don't have to go do something that's going to even make the situation
and
worse.
Drink. I mean, you're going to go drink or drug, do whatever you want. Ride motorcycles 100 miles an hour. I don't care. Do something stupid because you can. But because you're saying we face pain and we are weak and imperfect beings. See, because I still hear you using brokenness in a big global way. Mm-hmm. You know, there's brokenness in the system. Humanity is broken. And so I have to clarify and focus that for it to really make sense to me. So when I don't get what I want, when life is hard.
Well, and I think you can think of it on the three levels we're talking about: physical, emotional, and spiritual. Mm-hmm. When I'm physically weak, I'm sick or ill, I've got a virus, something like that. Guess what? I'm limited, but it doesn't mean that I have to go do stupid things, right?
But wait a minute, is that brokenness? So if if you're sick in your body, could that be brokenness when you say the physical part?
Right, because I'm trying to bring. You're saying I'm saying it globally. Well, I'm trying to bring it in. You can be broken physically, meaning you've got a disease or you've got some kind of ailment or frailty.
Good.
You can be broken emotionally. That's really what we've been talking about here. Is your emotional system is small and it's weak, and then you can also be broken spiritually. Either you are completely severed from God, or you've got this strained relationship, or you spiritually you can be broken as well. And so I think in any one of those areas where essentially it comes out that it's pointing, you're looking in the mirror and you're realizing I'm weak. I don't have what it takes. I don't have the answer. I don't know the answer. And that's where I think, rather than pretending like I'm not broken, what I'm saying is to be broken means I'm going to be totally honest, no hiding, no lying. Mm-hmm. This is me. And how can I grow even in this state? And that's what I think people struggle with, because they think to grow means to avoid brokenness and one day be completely done with it.
So it's interesting because when you say this brokenness, that I am broken and some of my brokenness interacts with my wife's brokenness, or her brokenness interacts with me. You're saying when weakness on any level occurs, imperfection occurs, we're looking at a broken, imperfect human being. And when my brokenness and her brokenness, I mean, that could be a big mess. If one of us is broken and the other one is walking in humility, right? Because sometimes we're not acting out of brokenness. Sometimes we're broken and we're humble or something, right? So if he's humble and she's throwing a big fit, then her brokenness is hanging out. Is that how to say that?
And I think what we're trying to do here is just shift the paradigm, because I think we have such an aversion to brokenness that we think it's always and only negative. And I hope what we've tried to illustrate here in this program this week is that you can have a different frame of reference, a different frame of mind for how you see brokenness. That, it's about weakness, it's about frailty, it's about all these imperfections, but that doesn't have to mean that you can't grow, that you can't respond differently to your brokenness when it rises up and wants to consume you. That you can be weak and yet be a man or woman of integrity, and that you don't have to be weak and then therefore fail in your sin. And I think that is the shift that we're needing to make here.
That's good.
Well, we're out of time. Hopefully this has been a helpful broadcast. If you'd like more help on your journey, please contact us, and we look forward to having you back here again next week on the Pure Sex Radio broadcast.
Because we know you're all broken. See ya.
Bye.
Pure Sex Radio is paid for by Be Broken Ministries. Visit us online at puresexradio.com.